Hi, my name is Cody Bodensteiner, and I chose John Pierpoint Morgan for my Lest We Forget project. A project where I had to choose a historical figure from American history since 1877. I chose the biography Morgan American Financier by Jean Strauss for my source. This biography, Jean Strauss wrote, won her a number of prizes, including the Ambassador Book Award, and was also named the New York Times 10 Best Books of the Year in 1999. Jean Strauss graduated Radcliffe College with a bachelor's degree in 1967. At the time of Morgan's death, he was known as the most powerful banker in the world. Morgan reorganized the railroad system and other big corporate trusts. He acted as America's central bank when they did not have one. Morgan was able to impose order on America's economy, put together and created U.S. Steel, which was the first billion-dollar corporation in the world. Plus, he helped set up GE, also known as General Electric, and International Harvester. I found this information on pages 5 and 6 of Morgan American Financier. Pierpont Morgan's story starts way before he was even born, as he was related to James Pierpont, who was the founder of Yale. James Pierpont was one of Morgan's maternal relatives, and he graduated from Harvard. Morgan was also related maternally to Reverend Aaron Burr, who was a founder of Princeton. Reverend Aaron Burr's son served as vice president under Thomas Jefferson. Morgan's dad, Junius Morgan, secured his first banking partnership with Morris Ketchum in 1934. Their new firm was called Morgan Ketchum and Company. Junius Morgan got married to Juliet Pierpont in 1836. Juliet was Morgan's mother. This information was found on pages 19 through 22 in Morgan American Financier. John Pierpont was born on April 17, 1837. His parents decided to not make their first child a junior. When John was born, his parents and him lived with his grandfather, Joseph, and his father had to pay him $9 a week just to live there. Before J.P. Morgan was even a year old, he came down with illness. His grandfather, Joseph, even wrote in his diary, "Child very unwell. I fear I never shall see him again." This was on page 25. Luckily, it did not last long, and JP was back to being healthy. JP had 4 siblings and was the oldest. JP had a pretty privileged upbringing where both his dad and his grandpa were in the banking and insurance industry and doing pretty well for themselves. He left his family behind to go to Boston English High School, where he graduated in 1954, which I found on page 47 of Morgan American Financier. He also went to Europe and studied for 2 years learning French from a Swiss school. Then also spent 2 years learning German at the University of Göttingen. His first wife he married, Amelia Sturgis, died 4 months after the wedding. Then he remarried and had 4 children with Frances Tracy. JP's first company was Goodwin Morgan and Company that he helped run while he was at Boston English High School. His father, Julius Morgan, helped set up JP by creating Dabney Morgan and Company in 1864. He set up JP with experienced business partners. He also helped JP create Drexel Morgan and Company in 1871. Morgan soon became the head of both and was running both of these with just a little help. JP's first success came in 1873. This was when he got the U.S. Treasury to give him permission to sell shares of government-issued bonds. After just a few years, Drexel Morgan Bank was a leading bank for government bonds sold outside the United States. I found this information on pages 141 through 143 in Morgan American Financier. In the 1880s, Morgan spent a lot of his time trying to help out the railroads. This was because he had a lot of clients that had investments in the railroad. Morgan ended up buying control over the railroads to end disputes and failures. Morgan reorganized and refinanced them, which was also called Morganization. This was because the railroads reorganization was done mostly by J.P. Morgan. He also put people he could trust in charge and combined Great Northern Railroads and Northern Pacific Railroads. The new company in charge of the railroads was the Northern Securities Holding Company. But in 1904, the U.S. Supreme Court said this violated the Sherman antitrust laws, and the railroad company was split up. I found this information on pages 419 through 431 in Morgan American Financer. Morgan's father passed in 1890, and his partner in Drexel Morgan and Company died in 1893, which gave him complete control over both his father's business and his partnership business. So JP combined the firms into JP Morgan and Company. He was also left $12 million from his father's will. He combined the firms in 1895. In 1892, he also helped combine Thomas Edison's Electric Company and GE. In 1902, he created International Harvester, and on page 469, it says Morgan did not think the bank needed this business, but agreed to take it with agreement from other partners. The things that made J.P. Morgan to be superhumanly, there were a lot. Most being that he was an American and global leader in finance. He provided and attacked the world's financial problems, which made him very rich. The biggest financial thing J.P. Morgan did was create the first billion-dollar industry in the world. He did this by combining Andrew Carnegie's steel company and the Federal Steel. The new company was called U.S. Steel. He had a lot of power, control, and impact on the U.S. economy. In 1893, during a financial panic, even the President of the United States came to Morgan. JP helped loan and resupply gold to the U.S. Treasury's gold reserve with the help of a few other powerful bankers. JP also gave $1.4 million to the poor New York City citizens. He did this by building a new maternity hospital in New York. He also helped co-found the American Museum of Natural History. He was considered the Napoleon of Wall Street, which was on page 6. He was called this because he managed the competition between businesses. Morgan is remembered today by J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, which is the largest bank in the U.S. and the 6th largest in the world today. His bank is one of the most admired companies in the world. He is also remembered for creating the world's first billion-dollar company, which is considered by many to be his greatest achievement. I think we should remember him as the greatest banker of all time. All of his accomplishments and pretty much being the central bank before the government stepped in puts it. In 1913, Morgan took a vacation to Egypt. He got sick while on vacation. He went to Rome, where he died on March 31st of 1913. He was 75 years old when he passed. He had a $68 million worth of wealth when he died, and this did not include his collections of art. His total wealth and fortune was estimated around $80 million. He left his business and his wealth to his son, John Pierpont Morgan Jr. Here is my works cited, and thank you for listening to my presentation today.